What is the perfect fat loss diet? It's comprised of 3 parts that I'll cover in detail. I'll also give you a valuable power tip at the end. Part 1, the perfect fat loss diet starts with calories. There are many different eating styles that you can use. Lower carb, intermittent eating, basic mixed meals, just to name a few. I don't recommend any eating style that cuts out a macronutrient entirely, i.e. carbs, fats, or protein. I don't think it's healthy or sustainable. I don't want to just give you fish. I want to teach you how to fish. There are plenty of plans out there that shove a random diet down your throat and tell you to somehow make it work. The eating style you choose is less important than your ability to create a caloric deficit with that eating style. I don't like online calculators. They tell you your BMR or basal metabolic rate and how many calories you should be eating per day. It's one size doesn't fit anyone. The most personalized way to determine how many calories you should be eating per day starts with tracking your calories using an app. You want to track everything. 1 tablespoon of ketchup? Track it. 2 Hershey's Kisses? Track it. You'll do this for 2 weeks and weigh yourself every day. What you're doing here is you're collecting data. After 2 weeks, you will see your average daily calories. It could be 5,000 or 2,000. It doesn't matter, it's just a starting point. By tracking calories, you're doing 2 things. You're creating an awareness of what you're eating and developing the habit of tracking. This is more behavioral, but powerful. And don't worry, you won't have to track calories indefinitely. It's just a tool you will come back to when you've fallen off on your nutrition. Now you have the data to move on. If you lost weight, stay at those calories. Until you stop losing weight, then you'll create a deficit. If you're the same weight or you gain weight, you're in a calorie surplus. Now you want to create a deficit. If you're heavy and your body fat is greater than 25%, you can start cutting 500 to 1,000 calories per day. You're big enough, you're not going to miss those calories. And this number is just arbitrary. It's just a starting point. As you get closer to your goal weight, as your total daily calories decrease, your deficit will also decrease. If you're not real heavy, but your body fat is greater than 25%, you can start cutting 200 to 500 calories per day. Again, this is arbitrary. Just don't get crazy with your deficit because it will backfire on you. I'll link a video in the end card on why you may not be burning fat if your calorie deficit is too steep. Notice I haven't said anything about changing what or how you eat. At this point, it's not necessary. Fine-tuning food choices will come later. Right now, we're just focusing on creating a calorie deficit. Part 2, protein. Protein is way overrated. There is plenty of anecdotal evidence that we don't need as much protein as we think. Men in third world countries and men in prison, they don't have access to unlimited protein like we do. And they get lean and jacked just fine. Protein is critical for many cellular processes in the body, including muscle repair and growth. But protein by itself is not the driver of muscle growth. If that were true, then everyone eating 500 grams of protein per day would be muscular specimens. What is the driver of muscle growth? It's intense strength training. As far as the perfect fat loss diet, you don't need as much protein as you think. You want to eat enough to preserve the muscle that you have while still being in a calorie deficit. For example, if you're 250 pounds and you're greater than 25% body fat, it's more favorable to eat 0.8 grams per pound of body weight in protein, which in this case equals 200 grams of protein per day. That extra 50 grams of protein you got rid of, if you were eating 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, is an easy 200 calories to add to your deficit. Now you're at 800 calories of total protein for the day. Just fill in the rest with carbs and fats. You want plenty of carbs to fuel your exercise because this is what's going to help you with creating that calorie deficit. And don't get hung up on protein quality or timing. The most important thing is total daily protein. How and when you get it throughout the day is less important. Keep it simple, don't complicate it. Part 3, fine-tuning. At this point, you have not changed your eating style. You simply focused on the most important thing, creating a calorie deficit. If you can consistently stay in a calorie deficit, then you should eat what you enjoy. You love bread? Eat it. Homemade cheeseburgers? Do it. But should you focus on nutrition or just calories? That's a fair question. Whole foods are nutrient dense. Processed foods are nutrient empty. The problem with processed foods is your body responds to them differently. They don't tend to keep you full for very long. I'm not the food police. As soon as I tell you don't eat something, that's exactly what you will start wanting. In order to keep yourself from feeling deprived, I suggest 80% whole foods, and 20% foods of whatever you like. But what does that look like? Before I go on, there is a caveat. No matter what you eat, it must still fit into your calorie deficit. Or else, what's the point? You're just going to end up in a calorie surplus. Let's say you eat 3 meals per day times 7 days per week. This is just an example. That's 21 meals divided by 0.2, 20%. That equals 4 meals of eating whatever you like. This way, you don't have to go out and eat and get all weird about it. Power tip. You see that person with the amazing physique, and you want that result. But when you look behind the curtain and see what it took to get that physique, you're not as interested. Just be more realistic with what you want to look like so you don't drive yourself crazy in the process. If you're honest with what you are willing to do to get into the shape that you want to get into, then you're going to achieve it no problem. If you want to know the perfect fat loss workout, watch this next. And as always, thanks so much for watching.